Margarita Koroleva is a nutritionist, a doctor of personalized medicine, a professor of the Federal Medical and Biological Agency of Russia. She graduated with honors from the medical faculty of the First Moscow Medical Institute, then clinical residency in major cardiology, a candidate of medical sciences. She has been working in medicine for more than 25 years. She was the first in Russia who began to make individual, comprehensive nutrition and body correction programs. She developed her own method of reducing and maintaining weight. Head and chief physician of the Margarita Koroleva Aesthetic Medicine Clinic.
Добрый день, Маргарита. Здравствуйте, Ольга.
Losing weight, a slim figure, this is some kind of endless number of magical fast diets. Half of Russian women either lose weight or try to lose weight or are going to lose weight. Where is this dream of an unattainable slim figure in our subconscious from? People want to lose weight, especially when the summer season begins, and everyone starts preparing for the summer season. Naturally, they understand that their clothes have become a bit tight, swimsuits are already impossible to try on, self-confidence is leaving. People are disappointed by their bright but plumpy image, and they make a decision. They must lose weight for the season again. In general, even though I'm a nutritionist, I do not like the word expression to lose weight. Losing weight is something from the word loss, that is, to lose something. Therefore, I always amend the lexicon of my patients and the people with whom I speak to slim. Yes, to gain healthy harmony, right. But certainly not to lose weight. Yes, people make decisions, keep some kind of extreme diet and lose weight quickly. And as a rule, extreme diets do not change the model of eating behavior. They do not teach a person how to keep this result afterwards. And the person, having received it, does not hold it for too long. Being on vacation, having a rest, they taste and eat with pleasure everything that used to be available to them. And naturally, by the end of vacation, they're already gaining lost kilograms. And any kilogram lost during an extreme diet brings, as a rule, a couple of kilos back. And a person is disappointed, both for himself and from another weight loss technique. And as a result, they in fact lose faith in themselves.
Килограмм на экстремальной диете приводит за собой, как правило, парочку пленных, и человек разочарован и от себя, и от очередной методики снижения.
They realize that probably that same dream, healthy harmony, is unattainable. Probably genetics is somehow to blame, and it's enough to look at one's mother or aunt. Perhaps there are some other problems, and it's better to look for them. The thyroid gland, metabolic disorders, problems with gynecology. That is, people start searching for any problems, but they stop halfway in this regard too. They let all this situation hang out. And for the next summer season, people who gained a couple, 3, 5, or even 10 kilos, again and again make an attempt to lose them. And so everything is in a circle. But why does this happen? Because people keep the same short-term diets, strict ones, with the restriction of nutrients, with a state of hunger, malaise during this period. They get the desired numbers on the scales, then return the lost weight quickly due to the fact that they want to eat. And as a person compensates for something that they did not eat up during a nutrition program, limiting themselves to everything or experiencing hunger in the absence of any favorite foods, feeling just frustrated that everyone can eat what they love, but they have to give up what pleases them. Therefore, of course, a person returns to their favorite food without changing their eating behavior, and they gain weight again.
Поэтому, конечно, к любимым продуктам человек возвращается, не меняя пищевое поведение, набирает вес.
Now, you've named what seems to me is one of the main mistakes in eating behavior, at least in our country. It's a huge number of short-term diets and an absolute refusal from regular, normal nutrition. What else are the main mistakes, the main misconceptions in our country, for example? In fact, there are quite a lot of errors, either really an abnormal eating behavior, or a general behavior, which leads to the weight gain. An anxious attitude to favorite products with salt, fat, and sugar. and excessive refined foods in the diet. Food is chaotic and disorderly. As a rule, many people come and say, we eat even a little, but rather chaotically. We have breakfast and a fairly heavy dinner. Why are kilos gained then? And so many. The question is open. Then I have to explain what the physiology of the process is, what the reasons for that are. And it's enough for a person, in fact, to take a food diary and start taking notes, step by step, what they eat, what mode they follow, what quantity, how they combine the components of food, whether they have physical activities, whether they drink water, and a food diary with which a person has to communicate one-on-one helps to identify the root causes of overweight. As a rule, a person then analyzes and begins correction work. They either appeal to the opinion and advice of a specialist who will help to create a step-by-step program, taking into account their individual characteristics, nature of work, rest, accumulated diseases, physical activity, sleep, number of stressful situations, ability to manage stress. That is, a combination of factors can lead to overweight. And the ability to manage these factors will allow a person once and for all to lose overweight and to maintain, in fact, their beautiful, healthy and well-shaped physical form. To forget about disease, problems, and be confident. To have a new level of energy, effective work of the brain, to be effective and useful for relatives and the profession that they studied for. All of this is possible.
Энергии, эффективную работу мозга, быть полезным близким, делу, которому учился. То есть все это возможно.
You've said that we have a lot of convictions. Give a trite example. All the girls have probably heard the phrase, just do not eat after 6 p.m. and everything will be fine. And how to explain to a person that this will not help? Many people understand that any diet or moving from one diet to another is a waste of time. Many of them were convinced of this. They need to change their lives, once and forever, just to change their meals, attitude to themselves, and attitude to what they eat. To change the mode of eating, the food quantity, to rethink their meals in favor of natural products and dishes with a gentle processing, to structure and plan meals. That is, we must learn to analyze our lives. We must take care of our bodies, to help them maintain their beauty and form, to avoid problems and diseases, not to load them with overweight. You know, once, when I was working for the health program on Channel 1, I often had groups of those wonderful stout people for whom I gave master classes. And one day, I have such a young lady sitting at the table, and the whole group complained about her, due to the fact that she did not have time to make notes. She was very stout, with a very small height, 153 centimeters. She weighed about 160 plus kilograms. She couldn't reach the table. She couldn't put a piece of paper on the table. She located one A4 paper on her stomach and was writing quietly. She fell behind. Everyone complained, hurried her up a bit, and I set all the conditions so that she could remember the information. And there was the last question. She raised her hand and asked me, "My knees hurt. Why, do you think?" I looked at my knees, at her knees, and said, "We have exactly the same knees. You have just overloaded yours like that. You don't like your knees." And she said, "I've understood everything." So a sign of self-dislike. This is the attitude when a person torments themselves with various kinds of diet. Hungry programs, well, they feel bad, sometimes faint, and as a result, they reach the coveted kilograms but cannot keep them again. Therefore, a system is required. A systematic, integrated approach to a person, which will include a complete change in the nature of food, dishes that the person eats for breakfast, lunch and dinner. Useful snacks are to be present. The nature of physical activity is to be changed. One must learn to manage stress, environmental factors. That is, it is a system that really helps a person to change their life.
Блюд, которые человек будет есть на завтрак, обед, ужин, полезные перекусы делать при этом. Изменение характера физической активности. Научиться надо управлять стрессами, факторами окружающей среды. То есть это система, которая действительно помогает человеку изменить его жизнь.
You talk about your clients, about your patients, so pathetically. When I entered your office for the first time, I was a bit surprised. I expected to see a slightly different office at one of the country's leading nutritionists. Explain, why do you have such an interior design? You know, one day a film crew came to me, and a reporter with a significant overweight talking to her cameraman said during their dialogue, "I can't understand why there are so many plump girls here." She said, addressing me, Why do you have so many of them?" "Oh, Vasya, take a picture of me, please, here with this one. Oh, look, and this one's like me, just like me. Well, and here this one too. No, I want to stand next to this one. Well, why? Why do you have so many plump girls?" You know, this is a psychological moment. That's what I told her. Sometimes a person who wants to enter this office is a bit shy, with complexes. So a person is stopped in front of the office with their accumulated complexes and self-indulgence. They come in with hesitation, thinking that the doctor has a normal, healthy, slim shape, and probably hates fat people for a long time. But when people come into this office, they see that I treat these charming, plump girls favorably. It makes a good impression on them. They relax and trust me, the most confidential things. And we talk with them for a long time, identifying the casual relationships that led to a body overweight. We're looking for solutions to the problem together, allied just like that. I form each person individually. I'm responsible for the step-by-step solution of the problem. I give only the tool, and a person themselves implement it, having an individual responsibility for implementation, punctual, disciplined implementation of all prescribed recommendations from me.
Человек сам претворяет в жизнь, имея индивидуальную ответственность за выполнение, пунктуальное, дисциплинированное выполнение всех предписанных рекомендаций.
Very often, not even the delusions that we have already talked about serve as a barrier on the way to a slim figure, but some psychological internal problems. Why does this happen? You have an example when a person seems to be all right, and the physiology is good, the way of life is normal, but they cannot lose weight, because some psychological barrier prevents them from doing so. I think that psychological barriers are the lack of self-belief. When a person has played enough with all their diets, and they're disappointed in the end, and the fact that diets don't work, moving from one to the other is really a waste of time, and the continuation of the further diet will also not work for long. And when serious problems really begin to manifest, the level of pressure and sugar rises. Then a person is forced for himself, for their life, their health, in order to maintain the quality of life and in order to become a burden for relatives and friends, to come to the doctor's office in order to solve the problems of overweight and already existing problems associated with it.
И ассоциированных с ним уже проблем имеющихся.
Only the task to change their health, as a rule, motivates a person to make a decision to change their own and external image as well. But the most important motivation is health. As for beauty, disappointment and loss of self-belief will still slow down a person. A constant self-blame. They blame themselves for any deviation from the intended program, and when we start talking with patients, I always say that they shouldn't blame themselves, they should not beat themselves up. Often people come and say the same thing. I hate myself, I don't like myself.
Нельзя себя винить, нельзя заниматься самобичеванием. Зачастую люди приходят и говорят: я себя ненавижу, я себя не люблю. Я начинаю...
I begin to explain that a human body is created in love, not at all to become one day a proving ground for military action. You must stop fighting within it. It cannot be scolded. After all, self-flagellation is like the sharpest spears that the emotional, delicate, lively and vulnerable human body receives from its own holder. They're sharp, they hurt, they sting and offend. And the human body, it begins to defend itself from these sharp spears. How? The psycho-emotional component decreases, down to depression. The person understands that he has already fallen into this state, and the metabolic rate is sharply reduced. And if yesterday, conditionally, an apple helped you lose progressively some grams, extra kilos, then today you will gain weight with this apple, due to the fact that you started treating yourself incorrectly. You begin to scold and blame yourself. And I teach people to love themselves, accept themselves, and start helping themselves.
Я учу людей полюбить себя, принять себя и начать себе
To become a manager of their own project, change your body. You must learn to talk to it, to communicate. Then, hand in hand with your body, everything will be all right. You know, when my little, younger child was 3 years old, a girl, we sat with her in a restaurant, and they brought us chicken soup for lunch. There were many, many greens. Lisa sat looking at those greens, turned to me and said, "Margosha, they put so many greens here. Let's tell them to remove a half of them." I said, "Lisa, your lashes will be even longer if you eat these greens." "Oh, let's tell them to put more of them in then," she said. So it's necessary to communicate with the body. It's necessary to explain what is useful for it and what is harmful. You need to explain and accept this information. Hear yourself, listen, and help to the maximum. It is necessary to stop fighting. I must say, forgive me, beloved dear, the only. Huge thanks to you for being with me, still healthy, with emerging motivations, with goal setting. You want to be and become different, and you will succeed. Let's do it together. We will succeed together.
С постановкой цели. Ты хочешь быть и стать другим. И у тебя получится. Давай вместе. У нас получится вместе.
It seems that you were not immediately engaged in this big deal to help people. You graduated with honors and major of cardiology, not dietology after all. I really was an excellent student. I liked all the practices, all the subjects I was engaged in, despite the fact that I had a little daughter at the same time. I gave birth in the 3rd year, but it didn't take maternity leave. I didn't take an academic leave, I managed it. It was very hard, but I managed to combine everything. And at the same time, I worked off all missed class time, of course. Working off was obligatory. My mother-in-law helped me, quite a bit, due to the fact that she was also a working person. At least my relatives understood me. They helped me as much as possible. I didn't gain weight after the first pregnancy and childbirth, but I have this nuance in life, due to the fact that I'm also inclined to stoutness. Like many women in our country, I have such an inclination to gain body overweight, and I had this problem after the birth of my 2nd child, when I had the opportunity to be on maternity leave for a short time, and I, yes, was on maternity leave for 8 months. I gained almost 30 kilos of overweight during pregnancy and lactation. It was a long time ago. It was the beginning of the 90s.
Достаточно дефицитное время было по выбору продуктов питания, и талоны были, достаточно серьезные.
It was a significantly scarce time for the choice of food. We had coupons for food. Quite a difficult period of time. My husband brought all the scarce products with pleasure, and cooking was for me like an art. I cooked and cooked. Well, naturally, 2 small children. I also had to eat up for them, and somehow, gradually, 4 months after giving birth, I realized that I had already gained 30 kilos. From that moment, a really serious work on myself began. My husband saw me disappointed, in tears, when I was dissatisfied with myself. I also began to scold myself. He reassured me and said, "Well, I saw your mother." My mother was stout, about 90 kilos. That is, eating behavior, of course, is built in the family. And there was an inclination. Partly it was genetically determined. In fact, we can and should also change the work of our genes. And I'm a vivid example of this. So my husband said, "Yes, this is genetics, and you cannot change yourself. And I will not allow you to carry out any starving or half-starving programs. Due to the fact that you're a mother, first of all, you have 2 wonderful children, a wife, my beloved woman. I will just take control of the situation." And nevertheless, from that moment I was overwhelmed by a large amount of literature, endocrinology, the theory of obesity, and physiology, and gastroenterology. I was an excellent student at university, and my husband was a doctor of medical sciences. That is, there was enough literature, and he brought a lot of translated literature too. That is, I, as a subject to help, plus my medical knowledge, and my experience, allowed me, in fact, to lose overweight in a little more than 8 months. But this is a set of approaches again. I completely changed the contents of the refrigerator. My relatives became my allies. They also supported my healthy undertakings.
Холодильника, мои близкие стали моими союзниками, они тоже поддерживали мои здоровые начинания, с дома исчезли сосиски, сардельки и другие рафинированные продукты.
Sausages, wieners, and other refined products disappeared from the house. Sweet curd snacks moved to the children's shelf in the fridge. Some products were really only for children. Some were definitely taboo. Regular and moderate physical activity, plus a consistent change in meals, made it possible to gain a result that I had been working on for almost 30 years. If I return to the food from which I refused, I will quickly, again, gain those extra kilos. It does not cost me anything. Therefore, it's possible and real one day to lose overweight. And becoming one day another person, it is possible to maintain a healthy physical condition throughout your life. I weighed more than 85 kilos. I know what it is. I know this weight, the shortness of breath, increasing blood pressure. I will never return to that bright, stout image.
Я, пожалуй, никогда не вернусь в тот, пусть светлый.
A hard period, isn't it?
Полный образ. Тяжелый период, да.
Yes, I will never allow myself to be like that again. I like another shape. I like what I am now, and I will always be in this shape. This is real for everyone.
Вы сказали две очень важные вещи. Сказали генетика.
You've said two very important things. You've said genetics, and in the next sentence you've said eating behavior. And then say, look at your mother, she's also stout. So is it inherited in the tradition of family nutrition? Of course, it happens that a person says that both his mother and his dog are stout, therefore the eating behavior is built at home. And often the whole family comes to me. They're all so wonderful, about 150 kilos each, and a husband, a wife, and a 16-year-old child, 130 kilos, and a daughter, 120, they're all so wonderful. They have 4 fridges at home. They make stocks, super stocks of their favorite products. They have family lunches and dinners. They have family weekends and barbecues, visiting guests. They have such a food stereotype, a family food stereotype that has been formed. Well, from our point of view, of course, it's an anomaly. Whatever it was, but it led to the overweight of these people. It led to the problems and illnesses. And this doesn't mean that it's genetics. Genetically, there is only an inclination. Groups of genes, 100 of them at least, that are responsible for weight gain, can lead to overweight. But each of these genes introduces only a small contribution in the form of inclination. But it depends solely on the person themselves, whether that inclination is realized or not. What kind of food choices they make, in favor of what kind of food they make that choice, whether physically active or totally hypodynamic. They prefer refined products, chaotic food, going to bed later than possible. And of course, they gain weight. They begin to complain that genetics is to blame. Even beloved boxer, the dog, has also gained weight due to genetics reasons. And that's it.
Даже любимый боксер, собачка, тоже генетически почему-то вот так вот с набором веса оказался. Вот так вот бывает.
But what about water? Now it seems to me the world is divided into 2 halves. Some people go with bottles everywhere. They drink water, while others look at them and think, why do they drink water all the time? For example, I always go with a bottle to work. My colleague once said, scientists have proven long ago that water will not help you. So is my colleague right or not? Water is an important component of a healthy lifestyle. Water is our everything. We are 80% water. Water supports the rate of metabolic processes. It transmits nutrients and oxygen to each cell. The composition of cells, toxins, are removed with the help of water. unnecessary things that are collected in a cell, slag, waste material. It supports lymphatic drainage. It maintains the body's natural detoxification. Water is the turgor of each cell. It is the health of our skin, nails. That is, I repeat, the speed of metabolic processes. And even if we are thirsty for an iota, we must bear in mind that the metabolic rate has already decreased by 30%. Therefore, water must necessarily accompany our lives. And I focus on this aspect with my patients, with whom I build a nutrition program, and of course on a sufficient amount of fluid intake. Mostly pure and non-carbonated water. A person should drink pure water of at least 2 liters. Well, and additionally, 2 or 3 cups of green, weak tea or herbal tea, red tea, such as hibiscus, whatever you like. But it should be based on pure, non-carbonated water, which helps us.
Кому что нравится, но в основе должна быть чистая вода, негазированная, которая нам только в помощь.
Сегодня много говорят...
Today, they talk a lot about intuitive nutrition. What does it actually mean? Almost every day, patients come to me with their own intuitive nutrition. They're hungry and they eat. They think that this is an emotional component, an emotional hunger, that this is a physical hunger, and immediately they begin to eat. When they feel bad, when they're bored, when their emotions are not enough, to surprise themselves with something, and they immediately begin to eat. And they eat, say, not sources of high-grade protein in combination with a useful vegetable side dish, but as a rule, it's some kind of chocolate, ice cream, fast food, which is also attractive in taste and sets the conditions for pleasure. They eat intuitively. Their body asked and they gave it. And that's what intuitive nutrition is. Intuitive nutrition is when a person listens to their body, but unfortunately, they often confuse physical hunger with emotional hunger. And they think, being on an intuitive diet, they gain weight so quickly. And they confirm for themselves that the intuitive nutrition does not work. It does not help maintain a normal physical shape. And certainly, it does not allow losing overweight.
И подтверждает для себя, что интуитивное питание не работает. Оно не помогает поддерживать нормальную физическую форму и уж точно не позволяет расстаться с лишним.
You advise to follow the principles of reasonable nutrition based on the normal physiology of a person, and you state that you have been keeping this diet, as you call it in scare quotes, I emphasize, for more than a year, and all slender girls and women of the world have been keeping it for more than 1,000 years. This is your idea, it's very much compliant with the Indian idea. Because according to Ayurveda, you need to eat when the body requires, not the follow breakfast, lunch, dinner routine. If you're hungry, then eat. If you're not hungry, don't eat. If you're thirsty, drink. So are the Indians right about that?
Во времени, то есть временные рамки. Человек посидел на диете и...
A diet is some kind of nutrition program limited in time. So that is the time frame. A person kept a diet and moved on to their so-called intuitive nutrition. This is not about diet, and I am not on a diet. I just live like that. I love healthy food. I eat regularly, 4 to 6 times a day. I do it with pleasure, intuitively. My body is already set to the next meal. It is waiting. The digestive system is ready to accept this amount of food, to digest and assimilate it. I drink enough liquid. I have regular physical exercise. I love it all, and I miss it. This is the only factor in my very busy schedule that I lack, is a sufficient amount of physical activity. I want to have physical activities every day, but sometimes I finish work late, very late. After 10, after 11 o'clock in the evening, I cannot do any physical exercise. But nevertheless, I use even some small time spans in my work schedule to get up on the treadmill or an ellipsoid-shaped gym machine in order to get a little shake-up on the vibration trainer. There's a fitness room in my clinic. That is, I give myself an opportunity and shake my muscles, reminding that I have not forgotten about them. But regular nutrition is the foundation that helps me to think effectively, to be healthy, to avoid any problems that could potentially be associated with overweight or insufficient nutritional components. I am in harmony with myself. First of all, I love myself. I treat myself favorably. I feed myself in time. I give myself enough water. And I teach this to my patients. And therefore, I definitely eat in the presence of my patients, and with their participation, we eat together. Sometimes, a person has to be at the consultation for 4 to 5 hours. We have definitely had meals together, and the portion of food that a person sees in front of them is also a lesson to them, what it consists of, how the components are combined. As the amount of food for intake, at what speed it's necessary to use it, so I comment on all these meals that we eat together. This is also part of my consultation, and part of the practice that I have as a way of life. I pass it on to my patients.
Это тоже часть моей консультации, и часть как раз вот той практики, которую...
And I have a very high percentage of those patients who once lost their overweight and keep their result throughout their lives. Although according to world statistics, there are few people keeping the results, between 5 and 7%. Well, I have more than 50% of people who keep the result, who once and forever changed with my participation.
У меня более 50% людей поддерживают свой результат однажды и навсегда изменившись с моим участием.
Thank you very much, Margarita. You talk about your work so enthusiastically. I was very pleased to talk with you and hear the answers to many, many questions that are interesting not only for me. Thank you.